All right, welcome everybody to today's webinar by the IEA SHC Solar Academy and hosted by ISIS, the International Solar Energy Society. My name is Arabella. I am the Congress's Communications and Outreach Officer here at the ISIS HQ in Freiburg, Germany, and I'm going to give you a short introduction into ISIS and the work we do, as we have many new participants joining us on the webinar today. The International Solar Energy Society ISIS is a non-profit UN-accredited membership NGO founded in 1954. ISIS represents a diverse membership of academics, researchers, energy practitioners, consultants, students, businesses, and advocates. Our vision is 100% renewable energy for all, used efficiently and wisely. At ISIS, we work on several key areas to advance this mission. ISIS organizes two major scientific congresses, the ISIS Solar World Congress and eurozone, on a biannual rotation. And since 2022, we are especially happy to organize eurozone together with the IEA SHC, and we're going to come back to that congress in a bit. ISIS publishes two major journals. One is the Solar Energy Journal, which many of you will know, and we founded that in 1957. It's one of the oldest and most leading journals in the field. And since 2021, we have a new edition, Solar Energy Advances, which is a fully open access journal. We hold webinars once a month, which you are attending today, and we have several education initiatives geared to our young students. ISIS publishes a series of infographics, and since 2020, we have launched the Solar Energy Museum. So we invite you to join ISIS if you're not yet a member, and thank you for your support. Now, before we head into the webinar, a quick note on the Q&A session. We will have one cumulative Q&A session at the end of our presentations, and you can send in your questions anytime throughout the webinar. When you're sending your questions, please keep them short and precise, and please include the speaker who the question is for. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce you to our moderator for today, Bärbel Epp. Bärbel Epp is the founder and managing director of the German consultancy SOLERGY. She's responsible for the international newsletter of the web portal solarthermal.org, which reports exclusively about market and technology trends in the solar heating and cooling sector. And since 6 years, Bärbel is the SHC chapter author of the annual Global Status Report on Renewables published by REN21. Now, I'm happy to hand over to you, Bärbel. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Arabella, for this kind introduction. Welcome also from my side. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I'm happy to start moderating the webinar today, and I would like to start with a short presentation on the IEA SHC program. So let me share my screen. So I hope it's all seeable. Well, the IEA Solar Heating and Cooling Program is an R&D-based program. It has 19 member countries and a number of 8 international organizations together with the European Commission. So you see that they cover a fair bit of the world. More than 200 experts group together and work on solar research-oriented subjects. So we have them listed here. You find water management, industrial solar heat, industrial water management, compact thermal energy storages. You have solar cooling, you have efficient solar district heating, solar neighborhoods, solar energy buildings. What does the Solar Academy has to offer you? Well, we do these quarterly webinars together with ISIS, as you have one today. The next one will be on the 21st and 23rd of June, and the topic will be solar heating and cooling markets and industry trends. You find these announcements always on the IEASHC.org Solar Academy website. There you also find videos with solar thermal experts that we have done on former events, or all the webinars that we have done together with ISIS are also recorded and openly accessed. The online and on-site trainings are always organized on request of the IEA Solar Heating and Cooling member countries and can cover different topics. We have done the past trainings in the Caribbean, China, South Africa, and UK. Well, where do you find more information? First, you can visit the website iea-shc.org, where each of the research topics have its own sub-page, so you can get good up-to-date information there. You can follow us on social media, or either Twitter or LinkedIn, and all further questions will be asked by the Secretariat, so welcome to send us if you have requests. Yeah, also a nice welcome and also invitation to the Eurosun 2022. As Arabella mentioned, it's a joint conference organized by ISIS and the IEA SHC. It's taking place in Germany, Kassel, a very nice city to be this September, because the nice art exhibition, the Documenta, will take place there as well. So you can combine that. That will be a nice gathering of, let's say, 300, 400 experts with a wide range of topics: solar architecture, solar electricity, solar heating. So pen in your conference paper until the 15th of April, and join us for the Eurosun in September. Yeah, so today's webinar topic is Global Certification Network. This is because the network was founded within the IEA Solar Heating and Cooling Program. And the person behind that is also our first speaker, Dr. Harald Drück. He is a really dedicated expert globally on certification. He chairs the Global Solar Certification Network, as well as the Solar KeyMark Network. And he is in the board of directors of the European Solar Thermal Industry Federation, which is called Solar Heat Europe. But he also has a main job, and this is at the University of Stuttgart, where he heads the Research and Test Center for Solar Systems and head of R&D at the Institute for Building Energetics, Thermodynamics, and Energy Storage. So he will talk today about Unite for Solar Thermal, and he will introduce the new alliance forged between the Global Certification Network and the Solar Heating Initiative. So Harald, I'm looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Bärbel. Also, a very warm welcome from my side to all participants from around the globe. And as mentioned, we are going to talk about the Global Solar Certification Network. And now I also have to share my presentation. And the Global Solar Certification Network is really something like unification for solar thermal around the globe. And the network itself consists of all important actors in the field of solar thermal technology. And these actors, they are, of course, oops, now what happened? These actors, they are on one hand, the solar thermal industry representatives that are the main stakeholder in our network, then the certification bodies, testing laboratories, and also inspection bodies. And the aim of our network is to facilitate worldwide cross-border trading for manufacturers of really quality solar thermal products, in particularly in the first step, solar collectors. And as you are a manufacturer, or if you are active in solar business, you might know that for different parts of the world, different test certificates, different scheme rules apply for subsidies or for building regulation and things like this. And our aim is to avoid retesting of solar thermal products and also to avoid re-inspection of the production line at the manufacturers when they enter new markets, in order to save costs, of course, to improve the quality, and finally to generate a larger market and also, of course, a better business for the manufacturers. And the way how we do it is that we use the already existing certification schemes for solar thermal products, and then we talk to the responsible persons. In some cases, they need to be a bit modified to achieve a mutual recognition of all these test reports and inspection reports based on individual certification schemes, but following, of course, the guidelines of the global solar certification network. So that means, in fact, if you have a test report that fulfills the requirements as described in the working rules of the global solar certification network, then this test report, and if also the inspection reports are fulfilling these requirements, then they will be mutually recognized. And of course, this can help to avoid retesting. And we are more or less active on the globe in the major markets. Like in Europe, we have a close cooperation with SOLERGY. We accept the reports. In the US with SRCC, for example, but also in Asia and Oceania. And Bärbel already mentioned it a bit. We were also established in the frame of 2 IEA tasks led by Jan-Erik Nielsen as operating agent and as also one of the key persons, or maybe you can also call it as the father of the global solar certification network. And this is this was task 43 more than 10 years back, and task 57. And today we are really established as an independent autonomous network. So there is no legal entity behind, so you cannot go to court with us. For example, so it's not a legal entity, but it's an autonomous network and a very powerful network. We have around 30 members, out of which are 23 to 24 formal members and 6 are supporters. And we also have some applications in the pipeline. And these applications, they cannot immediately become a member because we've established, especially for test labs and certification bodies and inspection bodies, certain requirements for joining the GSCN. So they have to go through a quality assurance procedure, and this takes some time. But this also really gives us the chance to only accept members in these critical areas like testing and certification and inspection that fulfill specific criteria. And for this, for example, accreditation according to ISO 17025 for test labs is not enough. And this is why these applicants are still in the pipeline. For manufacturers and supporters, membership is quite easy. You just go to the website. I will show the website later on, and then you can fill out the form and become a member. Fees are very limited, so it's in the range from 250 euros per year from industry representatives like manufacturers down to 75 euros for supporting members. Supporting members are, for example, private persons, but supporting members are also organizations like, for example, Solar Heat Europe or the Greek Solar Thermal Industry Association. So these are also some of our supporters. So how is the network organized? The network is organized in a way that it is operated by several committees or institutions. One are the 4 officers. Then we have a board with representatives from industry, from test labs, from certification bodies, and 2 representatives from these 3 groups from each continent. It's not fully equipped, the board now, so there are still a few vacant seats in some areas of the globe. So if you are interested and if you belong to these groups, then please contact us. We would be happy. And then we have several committees and working groups, like, for example, the Quality Assurance Committee. I already mentioned that is necessary to check the applications. Then we have 4 officers that are elected by the network. It's my person as the chairman. Then We have a vice chairman, which is Jean Martin from SRCC, the Solar Rating and Certification Corporation in the US. Our treasurer is He Tao from China, and our secretary is Harald Proschanik from Greenwan Tech in Austria. And then we also are very happy to have Marisol Oropeza as our marketing and public relations person. She takes care about all this PR stuff and the management. So if you're going to get an email or if you are interested in some information, then the contact point is Leopoldo Miko from Solar Heat Europe, formerly known as European Solar Thermal Industry Federation. He's also taking care about our money, so he's doing the accounting. And what is important to mention, the work by Solar Heat Europe is done free of charge. For sure, Leopoldo is paid, that's clear, but we are not charged by Solar Heat Europe because they see it as a contribution to our network, because they also believe in the success and in the importance of global solar certification. The Global Solar Certification Network has approximately 2 complete network meetings. In the past, it's clear they have been virtual in the last 2 years. Before that, we also had physical meetings. For this year, no physical meetings are planned, but maybe next year. If we do it, then we combine it with some other important meetings or events like Solar Key Mark network meetings or large conferences. And then we have around 4 meetings of the GSCN board. So how does the Global Solar Certification Network works? It works in a way that, as I mentioned, it's based on mutual recognitions of test reports and inspection reports, which are so-called 3-party certification schemes. And they consist of an initial type testing and a surveillance testing, and also an initial inspection of the factory production control, and also a periodical surveillance of these production lines. And all operating bodies have to be accredited. This is relevant for the test labs, but also for the certification bodies. And with regard to collector testing, performance and durability testing is carried out according to ISO 9806, which is the latest version of the international collector testing standard. So, looks a bit complicated, but I will explain you. How does it work? So there are several actors in this game, and if we look at them, then there are on one hand the manufacturer that produces the product, and then the product is tested by the test lab. The test lab is of course accredited by accreditation body, as also the certification body is accredited and the inspection body is accredited. These are the produced collectors. They are of course all quality checked by the inspector that checks the production process here and that issues an inspection report. The test lab issues a test report, and then these test reports and inspection report are accepted and checked by the certification body. Then a certificate is granted, and then also other certification bodies that are members of the GSCN will also accept the test report and the inspection report and also grant their certification schemes. So that means, for example, if you are here cooperating with, let's say, Dean Zertko for Solar Key Mark in Europe, then you hand in the same reports to SRCC to get the SRCC certification in the US. So that's the way how it is working. The organization we already mentioned briefly. We have the board, we have the manager, we have the quality assurance committee, and we have some working groups dedicated to specific peer groups like test labs or certification bodies, but also dedicated to specific tasks. For example, if there is the need to elaborate something, then we establish usually a working group. So now, why is it interesting for manufacturers? Because they can save money, and the savings, they are explained here. If you have a manufacturer and the manufacturer has 8 certified products, for example, 8 different types of collectors in 3 different regions, like for example, Europe, China, and let's say the US, then without the GSCN, the manufacturer has to pay the initial testing, he has to pay the annual inspection, and he has then in the first year, for this example, costs of 300,000 euros, and in the following years, costs of 12,000 euros per year for retesting and reinspection. Within the network, the testing is only done one time, so this is only 1/3 of the cost. Test reports are, of course, reissued with an additional amount, but far away from 3 times testing. Then annual inspections are accepted. There has to be a small network fee, but anyway, amount is a bit more than half. So that means 61% of the money will be saved, and in the first year and in the second year or in the following years, approximately half of the amount. So this is why it's very attractive for manufacturers to join the network, to be part of our network, and to benefit from our network. So we also have some success stories we can present. The first success story is, of course, that the GSCN, after this initial phase as IEA tasks in the solar heating and cooling program, is established. It's running independently. We have harmonized already several testing and inspection and certification procedures between different regions, and we have also done very successful, or not we, but members of the network, especially companies, have benefit from the process and went for certification of their products in different regions. For example, Samler, a big manufacturer from Greece, and he will also be part, Harry Michalopoulos, of the network today and present his success story. But there are also other success stories like KBB, a big manufacturer originally placed in Germany, now in Tunisia, or Greenvantech, one big manufacturer in Austria, and several more. So it works and it is of benefit. And of course, development is going on, and this is our latest development, which was achieved last year. And this is the alliance between the Global Solar Certification Network and the Solar Heating Initiative. And the Solar Heating Initiative, this is the organization that is issuing the SOLERGY label. If you have not heard about it, then you will have the chance later on to listen to a presentation about the SOLERGY label and the Solar Heating Initiative. So we tried to team up with, or no, we didn't try. Of course, we tried, but we also succeeded to team up with the Solar Heating Initiative, because we both act on the globe. We both have the same goal to promote solar thermal, to establish high quality solar thermal products. And so we thought it makes sense to join forces and to act commonly. But of course, we are still independent, but we cooperate in several fields. For example, we have joint marketing and communication activities. And due to this alliance, there was also the need to relaunch our website. which we did last year. It's now a brand new website. I will show you a screenshot later on. And coming to the end of my presentation, I would really like to encourage you to participate in the GSCN, and the GSCN is interesting for everybody, predominantly, of course, for the industry, because industry members, they can really benefit from this global solar certification concept and avoid retesting and reinspection, and hence save a lot of money. And also they have the benefit to save significant amount of money and time if they go for the SOLERGY collector label, because if you apply for all in a package, then it's done in a very convenient and smooth way. Then next aspect, for which target group it's interesting to join the network, it's the certification bodies, because the certification bodies that are participating in the global solar certification network, they will have the chance to attract a large number of international customers, and not only the customers from their region where the certification body is placed, because we act globally. Test labs, I'm also head of a test lab, is also interesting for them to join the GSCN, because there also as test lab you have the chance to attract large international customers. And as you know, testing is not only about price, it's also about quality, and it's also about the reputation of the test labs and things like this. So I think it's also very interesting if you run a test lab to participate in the network, because then you get access to these large customers. And also inspection and certification bodies can benefit, because then they can also have access to international customers in their region, and they can also use a lot of synergy effects. Now, already mentioned our new website. It's a brand new design, it's brand new content, also looking, you can see it here, on the alliance with SOLERGY. And if you are interested in visiting the website, it's gscn.solar. It's a relaunch of the website, so the address already existed for some time and still exists, but now the content is new. And finally, if you are interested in the network, of course, you can immediately join. You have to go to membership, and then you will find all information that is required to join the network. And if you are a member, you are also very much welcomed to attend our next Global Solar Certification Network meeting that will take place on the 11th of October this year at 2 p.m. Central European Summertime, which is UTC +2, as an online meeting. So it's also very convenient to participate. Duration will be around 3 hours maximum. So this leads me to the end. Thank you for listening. I'm already looking forward to your question at the end of our presentation session. But before going to the Q&As, I think we have some more presentations in the pipeline. And with this, I would like to give the screen back to Bärbel.
Yes, Harald, thank you so much. It was a very impressive introduction into Global Solar Certification Network, and I think we really have to thank all these volunteer, hardworking members of this network, as we learned that most of them are not paid, because it's a great service for the industry, and especially in times of global trade getting more important like nowadays. I think that it's a good service. Thank you very much, Harald, particularly also for your engagement in this. Yeah, well, now we go to the other side, sort of the partner that was already mentioned several times, you know, the solar heating initiative. And we have a tandem presentation. Marisol Oropeza, together with Sören Scholz, will hold the next presentation, and they will introduce the collector label SOLERGY. So Marisol is head of the consultancy MEDIS. Her core competences are strategic marketing, business development, and international project management. She's always bridging between Germany and Mexico. She is among the founders of the Solar Heat Initiative that promotes the SOLERGY label, among other things. She's also project manager at the Intersolar Mexico and board member of ANEX, the Mexican Renewable Energy Association. And her core speaker is Sören Scholz. He works since more than 20 years at DINCERTCO, a German certification body. He is head of product management and deputy head of the certification body. And he was really the one supporting the launch of the SOLERGY label from the very beginning in 2015. So I think both are very well placed to introduce this interesting label to us. And I give first the floor to Marisol. I'm looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Beryl. Thank you very much for the introduction. I would like to show my presentation. I think you are watching it, right? So, well, we can skip this. So I would just like to give a brief introduction to the Solar Heating Initiative, which consists of several companies and organizations that jointly strengthen the perception of solar thermal energy in the public sphere. If you are part of the sector, of the solar heating and cooling sector, you must be aware of the fact that there is still a lack of visibility to this sector compared to the PV sector, for instance. So all the companies supporting the initiative and the projects that we run want to do that, want to give more visibility to solar thermal technologies around the world, because this is a common problem that we face worldwide. We do this also voluntarily, independently, and by conviction. And the main two things that we do are technical advice to different projects and organizations, as well as lobbying. And these activities are performed by Stefan Abrecht, who is also one of the persons who started the activities of the Solar Heating Initiatives, and you have perhaps heard from him in different fora or have seen several articles from him. So he's in charge of that, and he is doing a lot of projects and doing a lot of lobby work for the solar thermal industry. And myself, I do the marketing and public relations for all the projects related to the Solar Heating Initiative. We do this also internationally in different languages, the languages that we can handle. And as you may see with the graphics that I put here, is like to engage in a different kind of communication so that it becomes also more easier for people to understand what we do as an industry. And two of our projects are the heat changers. Maybe many of the heat changers are already here, which is a project joining, or let's say given a common image to the heating industry and giving a common brand to everyone working in this industry. So each one of you, just because you're also here and you're interested in the topic, could also be a heat changer. We do a lot of networking. We have different actions. I can show you some things later. But the second project, it is the project that we are dealing with in this presentation, is the collector label SOLERGY. This was actually the project which initiated the activities of the Solar Heating Initiative back in 2015. This is a voluntary label to show what's the contribution of the solar collectors to the heating supply. And it has several important aspects that I would like to show you here. If you would like to follow the activities that we do in these two projects, here I give you the information, which we are very active in social media, and we also have a website. For the SOLERGY label, you can find the information about the label in 3 different websites. The first one is the Solar Heating Initiative website, the second is the GSCN, and the third one is DINCERTCO. So you can have the updated information always there. So why we do this? Why it's this collaboration taking place together with the GSCN? Well, the initiative launched the SOLERGY label in 2016 in Germany, and it's valid for all Europe because it's based on the collector certification scheme SOLERGY mark. But we also developed a scheme for other regions, such as North America, Oceania, and Asia, together with DITSERCO, because they were the ones supporting the project from the very beginning. So now, let's say we have prepared, or we have a family of collector labels which could be implemented in different continents. So it made a lot of sense to join forces with the Global Solar Certification Network, because it gathers the most relevant solar heat certification schemes worldwide. So this is the perfect match, because the SOLERGY label bases on current and valid collector certification schemes, also acknowledged by the Global Solar Certification Network. So I would say it's the perfect match. And together we decided to team up to bring both collector certification schemes and the SOLERGY label forwards worldwide. And this is like the first visual where you could really see that, no? That we do this together, and we try to give also more visibility to solar heating collectors and in general to solar heating and cooling technologies. So we started this collaboration already, or these discussions, a long time ago, and by the end of last year we made the decision to collaborate, and we just recently announced it. So now it's possible to come to the GSCN and request for information about the SOLERGY label. We started in Europe already, the labeling in Europe is running, and we will start doing the rest of the regions. What do we want to do together? Together we want to show how much solar collectors can contribute to a CO2-free heat supply in different locations and at different temperature levels. As you may know, every solar collector has a different efficiency depending on the level of irradiation, because it's located perhaps in a different place. And this is exactly what we want to show, that they are suitable for different types of applications, for different types of temperatures, according to the location and also according to the technological development. And this visibility is very important for us. How do we want to do that? We want to do that taking existing collector certification schemes acknowledged by the GSCN as basis. So the SOLERGY label itself is not a certification, it is a label which reflects much of the content of a collector certification scheme. Therefore, we always need a collector certification as a basis. This is more or less something that we would like to show very briefly in these two infographics. On the right-hand side, you would see the label itself, one of the labels. There are different combinations according to the location, if it's Europe, if it's North America, or another continent. There are different temperature ranges. We start with 25 centigrades up to 75. And as you may know, the lowest are more suitable for perhaps swimming pool heating, and the highest are more suitable for solar process heating, for instance. And the locations are shown here on the label, and they are based on the collector certification. That's why it's important. As you can see on the label, on the left-hand side, we have the SOLERGY mark, because this is a label for the European market. Okay. So more in detail, you see here some of the elements, or the most relevant elements of the label. The idea is to have this label for marketing purposes, so that collector manufacturers or system integrators can use this label to show their clients how much the collector, or how well the collector uses solar radiation according to the location and according to the temperature level that you would like to have, right? So we have created a different, wide set of infographics to explain how the label works. And all these materials can be used by the manufacturers or the companies who apply for a SOLERGY label, and they can use them also in their communication materials. So this is also very important because it's part of this education duty that we have as part of the solar heating and cooling industry towards consumers, so that they do informed choices when selecting a collector, that they know that they are going to have heat, energy for heat, and this is what we want to make visible, right? And the other efficiency labels, it's about how much energy the device use and its primary energy. And here's how much energy the collector could generate, which is actually the big difference between an efficiency label and the collector label SOLERGY, because it delivers energy and CO2-free energy, which is actually very important. So it makes the contribution of solar collectors to a cleaner and independent heat supply more visible. And in general terms, the label says how well the solar radiation is used. The higher the rating, as you can see here from the lowest A- up to AAA, the higher the rating the collector, the higher the yield per area. This also means that the available area is used much more efficiently. And these are some of the aspects that we as an industry would like to highlight, right? The solar heating technologies are really advanced and can deliver a lot of CO2-free energy. And with this, I am finished for the first part, and my colleague Sören will continue. So Sören, you say next, and then I can click on the presentation.
Thank you very much, Marisol, and for your presentation so far. And now, also she has explained to us the intention of the SOLERGY label and also the content of the label, what is behind the SOLERGY label, and I will show you now how the SOLERGY label works. And next, yeah, exactly. What Marisol already mentioned was that the SOLERGY label is not a certificate; it's just a registration based on a valid product certificate. And she already mentioned that we, in the Global Solar Certification Network, we have different recognized schemes, certification schemes, which are part of the Global Solar Certification Network and which form also the basis for the registration. So the SOLERGY registration itself, it is based on the valid product certificate. And we will issue a collector output data sheet with the technical information about the annual efficiency of the product. And in the next step, we can, if you click on the next step, please, then we can, based on the collector output data sheet, we can issue the SOLERGY label themselves, which will be which will include the information of an individual collector on the individual collector. Next slide, please. There is a similar approach to the classical product certification. The classical product certification is known already in Europe, for example, for the solar key mark certification. The solar key mark certification on the left side is divided in different steps. You will have an inspection of the factory production control of the manufacturer. You will do the collector test. The result will be a test report, the data sheet by a testing laboratory. This document will be assessed by the certification body, and if everything is fulfilled, the certification body will grant the right to use the solar key mark, for example, and will also, of course, issue a respective certificate. On the right side, you can see the steps for the SOLERGY label registration. The first step will be the verification and the collector output data sheet by a specific person. Marisol has already mentioned Stefan Albrecht, who will do this. He will check the technical information on the data sheet. Sometimes there might be some mistakes in, and he will do the preparation of the label itself. The certification body will do the final conformity assessment of the registration and will issue finally also the labels per collector subtype. Next slide, please. As Marisol already mentioned, we have started in Europe in 2016 based on the Solar Key Mark certification scheme, and currently we are the only certification body granting the SOLERGY label. And today we've got 24 companies having applied for the SOLERGY label. There are 53 registrations and more than 170 labels on the market. But we wanted, of course, not to be the only one. Marisol and also Harald has mentioned the intention to go global. And we have opened the certification scheme, developed it, we have added some further regions of the world and also make it possible for other certification bodies to join this system. And currently we are working together with North America, with SRCC, and this will be launched in 2022. And we are working also for Asia and other regions in the world to join this system. Next slide, please. Who can apply for the SOLERGY label? There are different ways to join the system. Of course, there are sometimes manufacturers with own brands, so collector manufacturers who sell the products and certify them under their own brand. This is a typical applicant for the SOLERGY label. There are on the other hand also OEM manufacturers who produce solar collectors but don't sell them on their own brand, but they are also possible for them to join the system. This is a business-to-business field, but this is possible. And also, of course, in the third step, OEM customers, companies that don't have an in-house collector production, they don't produce the collectors on their own, but buy collectors from manufacturers and sell them under their own brand. They also can apply for the SOLERGY registration. Click, please. Yeah, so the requirements are, as mentioned before, a valid collector certificate, for example, of the Solar Key Mark, SRCC, watermark, and so on. Of course, the collector test report according to the ISO standard 9806 and the respective data sheet. And we also included to be part of the system, to be a member of the Global Solar Certification Network, for example, for the certification bodies. Next slide, please. Here's one example. If you have, for example, a collector with two subtypes, means two sizes of the collector, and you have currently a Solar Key Mark certificate and you want to sell your product also in the US, you need a second collector certificate. You ask, for example, for the SRCC certificate, and you need a second collector certificate for the region of North America. This means that also, of course, the manufacturer needs to have a quality management system, take into account the relevant aspects of 9001 standard. You will then apply for SOLERGY registrations for the two regions. One region is Europe, for example, and the other region is then the United States. And you will get for the two sizes of your collector in total 4 SOLERGY labels, and can use these labels for the different regions in the world, but always based on, ideally in based on one inspection report and based on one test report, and so you can get the market access to the specific regions in the world where you want to sell your products. Now I will give back the word to Marisol, who will show you the last slides, and thank you very much for your attention so far.
Thank you. I will go very quick through the next slides because it's information that you may also request by email in case you're interested in getting your collector label. We have a fee scheme And of course, there are different discounts according to the number of continents that you want to register. Also, we have a welcome deal in case you are still not member of the GSCN or still not member of the Solar Heating Initiative. The thing is that it's important to know that for each type of company, manufacturer, OEM manufacturer, or OEM client, there is a discount, since this is also something that we are launching internationally. From the second year onwards, we also have these license fees, and these have or give you the right to use the label, and of course to be also member of the GSCN and of the Solar Heating Initiative. So you will have different options according to the regions and according to the type of client that you are. So in case you are interested, just come to us and we will do the explanation in detail. So in order to finish the presentation, I would just like to reinforce this message that the GSCN and the SOLERGY label bridge the gap. And which gap? The gap which means that there are some regions in the world or some countries where there is no established national or regional collector certification, but still there are companies who have a certificate perhaps from other region. Let's say a company in Mexico has a solar key mark certificate or an SRCC certificate because they want it. So they can get a SOLERGY label and they can use it also in Central America and Mexico and the US and Canada if they would like to. So if we manage also to have the Mexican certification scheme on board, well, we can do that. If not, this would be a way to join forces and also use the certifications that the manufacturers already have if they are acknowledged by the Global Solar Certification Network. So SOLERGY can also be seen as a uniform basis for subsidies. You know how important it is that politicians know that the quality of the collector is a good one before granting any subsidies. So this could be also a way to ensure that the collectors being granted for subsidies have a corresponding certification or are based on a collector certification. And additionally, it could be also acknowledged as part of the criteria for a solar obligation program, for instance. So these are some ideas that we will have and that we will explore in the next months to bring more quality products in the market and to make them visible to the end consumers. Last but not least, we would like to invite you to be part of this global community of Solar Heat, of the alliance that stands for quality, confidence, and transparency, and of the movement for a higher share of solar heat in the global heating market. As you know, solar heat creates independence, and this is what we need the most right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marisol. Excellent. Very good presentation. I think you got really far in these 7 years of promoting, 6 years of promoting this SOLERGY label, and it's great to hear that you will go global. Perfect. So our last speaker, and please hand in your questions. We have already a fair bit and we will raise them all after the last presentation, comes from industry. And I think that really rounds up what we have heard. We have started at research with Harald, and then we went into certification and marketing, and now we have also the industry view on certification in general and SOLERGY in particular. So I welcome Harry Michalopoulos. He is the managing director of Samla Solar, one of the leading companies in Greece in the field of manufacturing solar water heaters. He is vice president of the Greek Solar Thermal Industry Association and member of the board of the certification network. So he will tell us his experiences from the industry side regarding the Global Solar Certification Network and SOLERGY. So Harry, I'm looking forward to your presentation.
Hello, everybody. Thanks, Babel. 1 second. I hope you can see my screen. Do you hear me? Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, good. Our company is a solar collector and system manufacturer which is exporting in more than 40 countries. And our factory is located in Greece. So we had a lot of challenges to face in order to expand our activities furthermore. For instance, we had, let's say, there were some problems that we had to overpass, like certification that were required in different geographical areas. For instance, in Europe, which is required the SOLERGY mark, in the United States with RCC. Also, we had to face the problem of the increased cost to certify the products on each area. And also, we had to fight against the increased time to complete the certification on each area. These were very important, let's say, problems we had to solve in order to expand our activities in other areas and a worldwide level. What was the solution? Actually, GSCN was really it was really a solution for us. Our collectors were already being certified by SOLERGY mark. So through the GSCN network, we obtained the SRCC and Energy Star certification, and this happened really very fast with let's say low cost. And it was really very simple, as no retesting or no reinspection was required. Imagine that in less than 30 years, we started selling our products from Greece to the United States. That was really impressive. Then our experience regarding using the SOLERGY. It is really an important tool for us, as it really helps our clients to make the right decision about the technology they want to use. Also, it's very easy for them to understand how efficient are our collectors. Then, of course, they can understand and they can compare the renewable heat which is produced. And of course, also depends on the geographical area. They can understand the energy output in different climate areas. That has, let's say, that has increased our company's image, the logo itself, and of course has increased a lot our sales in different markets. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Harry. Excellent. I think this rounded up our topic a lot. So I invite all the speakers up to the floor for our Q&A. If you want to put your cameras on, you're also welcome to do that. And I would like to start with a more technical issue question to Harald Drück, because we were asked that whether you can describe a bit the development of the standard ISO 9806 from 2013 to 2017, the more latest version, and all major updates and changes that were taking place in this standard.
Yes, I think it's a very important aspect, and I'm really sorry to disappoint you. I cannot describe all the changes because there were several, but I can try to highlight some of the most important changes. And one important aspect are the so-called WIS collectors that were introduced. And these are wind and infrared sensitive collectors where, for example, swimming pool absorbers are among this category. And there we elaborated on the details, how to determine the performance and the wind dependency. Then there were improvements with regard to the incident angle modifier determination, and also with regard to testing of PVT collectors, so called hybrid collectors that produce electricity and heat simultaneously. And for example, when testing them, it's important that for the determination of the thermal performance, the PV panel is operated with an MPP tracker to also generate electricity. Things like this, they are the changes in the latest version.
Okay, thank you. Also a question to you, is India already part of the global solar certification network?
No, unfortunately not. And I think also India is unfortunately not a member yet of the solar heating and cooling program, which I personally really regret. The problem with countries like India or, for example, also Mexico, but now we have to really be precise. I talk about test labs or certification bodies from India or from Mexico. They have really to face the challenge that in their countries, the ISO standards are not yet implemented. Mm-hmm. And this is, of course, a really drawback, especially for test labs and certification bodies. For manufacturers, it's also a disadvantage. But anyway, for manufacturers from Mexico or India, it could be beneficial to be a member of the GSCN, for example, on one hand, to obtain the SOLERGY label, which is a benefit. And on the other hand, also if a manufacturer from Mexico, for example, wants to sell in the US, what many Mexican manufacturers do, and wants to sell in Europe, what also some Mexican manufacturers do, then he can also benefit from this harmonized inspection and testing procedures and stuff like this. So it makes sense again for manufacturers, even if they are located in a country where there is not the ISO standard 9806 for collector testing yet established, but for certification bodies and test labs, it does not really make sense at that stage.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we pass this question directly to Marisol, like India or Mexico. Do you have already companies from these countries that applied for SOLERGY, and is this possible at all?
It is possible. There are manufacturers in Mexico with a solar key mark certification and with the SRCC certification. They still haven't applied for the SOLERGY label. This is what we will promote in the next months now that we have the alliance with the GSCN, because we know that they also do business internationally. They export to other countries. And I would say that's a very important thing and the next step, actually. So it's possible, and we look forward to their applications.
Mm-hmm. Good. I think we were also asked, Marisol, about cost structure. I mean, you said that you can email further information, but maybe you give a bit rough ideas, because we have a participant who asked for the costs linked to SOLERGY label application.
The cost of the registration.
As a manufacturer, I assume, yes.
Okay, at the moment, it's only possible for manufacturers in Europe who apply for the label at ThinCircle. And since we have Sören here, I think he can explain much better how much it costs, or how is the cost structure, because actually like different parts, but he knows better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks, Marisol, for this question. And yeah, the cost, well, we at ThinCircle, we use so-called scheduler fees. So we have got an application fee, we have got the fee for doing the job, for example, what Stefan Albrecht does for the technical assessment in the background with the SOLERGY label and the checking the data sheets and so on. So roughly, to be in the example what we have mentioned before, for one collector with 2 subtypes, we have roughly €400 for in total for the registration. Part of the money will go to the test lab, so-called test lab, who will do the check. Part of the money will go to the initiative for marketing purposes, what Marisol mentioned, and also GSCN will get some of the money, but roughly for one collector with 2 subtypes, round about €400 for the registration in total.
Okay, thank you. A question to Harry. You know, with your 40 countries worldwide, we have a participant who wants to know how you managed with increasing transportation costs and the challenges as a manufacturer last year with rising material prices.
I think this is a problem that all of us had to face. Unfortunately, there were not a lot of things that we could do. We had to follow the, let's say, the market. So indeed, we had, let's say, big problems with the transport. Because beside the transport costs, also we had the problem with availability of boats, let's say, of available containers. But okay, all is a matter to organize yourself in the new, let's say, the new conditions of the market. But indeed is a problem.
Okay. We have questions here. I think we will give it to both again, Harald and Marisol or Sören. It's regarding concentrating collectors. We were asked whether they are covered by the standard, and we were asked whether they will or are already covered by the SOLERGY label. So maybe we start with Harald on the certification side, and then Marisol or Sören on the SOLERGY side.
Yes, they are covered by the standard, by ISO 9806. Of course, there are some special topics like, for example, stagnation behavior and so on that have to be, in some cases, considered separately. But in general, clear, yes, so the concentrating collectors are covered.
Are covered, okay. So how about the SOLERGY label, Marisol?
In other regions, for sure. Yes, we're expanding on that. I mean, we have so far reached the US, where we are working with the SRCC, and we will go afterwards with Oceania and Asia because the scheme is already developed. And North Africa, for sure, is also an interesting region. We just need to develop the scheme for that part with the locations and define all the methodology behind the SOLERGY label.
So, but for concentrating collectors like parabolics or Fresnel collectors, is this already possible to receive a SOLERGY label if they have a key mark?
Honestly, I'm not sure for the parabolic through. This is something that perhaps Stefan could know better. I know that it's possible for flat plate and evacuated tube collectors, and also very soon for PVT collectors. And I guess that concentrating collectors with a solar KEMA certification could be, but I'm not sure. I would be happy to forward this question to Stefan Ablet, who could be here, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah. To add something, I think it also depends on the concentration ratio. If you have a relatively low concentration ratio, then it's for sure not a problem, because some vacuum tubes with mirrors, they already have it, and they already have key mark, and they already have SOLERGY. So there is not a problem. But if it's a high concentration ratio, I think it's good to ask Stefan Albrecht.
Okay. Marisol, also a question regarding, somebody asked here, while quality is important, what about costs? Can the SOLERGY label be used to capture this metric, like, looking into heat costs?
No, the SOLERGY label is only reflecting how well the solar irradiation is used, and it gives an approximation of the efficiency per area. If we want to talk about cost, we will have to consider the whole system. As you know, the collector is the motor of the system, and to have the energy cost, you would need to consider other elements which are besides the collector, like all the peripheric or the tanks or all the dimensioning of the system. So that would be a bit more complex, and we wanted to keep it simple and to focus on the core component of the systems, which is the collector. So energy cost would not be a metric that could be given by the SOLERGY label at this stage, at least.
Okay. There's another question, Marisol. The general reception of the collector manufacturers to use this label, because I mean, there's always a kind of competition to be too close to showing your performance. Did this change over the years, or how is the reception of the collector manufacturers you discussed this matter with?
Yes, there are 22 manufacturers with a current collector label at the moment. So it shows that it's accepted, and they have been getting their collector renewed every year since 2016. So I think that everyone is getting aware of the fact that we need to show what the collectors are able to do. And this depends a lot on the location and on the irradiation and on the temperature. And these aspects are part of the collector label. And as we all know, there is no bad or good collector. It's just the application and the temperature that you need. So I think many collector manufacturers are aware of this and want to show what their collectors can do in different locations for different clients and for different applications. So yeah, I think this has changed, and we should be ready to show what the industry is able to show and how much technologically advanced are the collector technologies or the solar heating technologies worldwide. I mean, not only in Europe, but also in other regions like Latin America or North America or Australia, perhaps. So I think this has changed and will continue to grow. We need to show the contribution of solar heat to the energy sector.
Yeah, thank you. I think there's a question on thermosiphon systems. Harry, can you tell us, I mean, Greece are very strong in shipping thermosiphon systems around the world. Do you use the SOLERGY label also for this kind of systems?
The SOLERGY label is practically for the collector. So as long as the collector is part of the thermosiphon system, like this, yes, indeed, is used. But you understand, it's just for the collector.
Okay, okay, all right, good. I think that's clear then. I think there are really a lot of participants who are interested in this concentrating issue. So Harald, maybe you can be a bit more precise, because we have a participant who wants to know a bit more on how testing of concentrating collectors work, and whether this creates the same costs as if you do a test for a flat plate or an evacuated tube collector. And as you are head of a test institute, maybe you can answer these questions.
Yes, I can. I think related to the cost, it depends on the size of the product. For example, it's a small parabolic trough collector, and if the temperature range is not that high, then the costs would be more or less similar to a vacuum tube or flat plate collector. But of course, if temperature range is higher, then there has to be either medias that are used, like, for example, oil or even water with high pressure in the range of 10 to 20 bar. And then, of course, costs are higher. Next aspect is if the concentrating collector is much larger, so then, of course, the effort is also larger and the costs will be larger. This is one aspect. So in principle, performance testing is more or less done as for a normal collector also, like a flat plate or vacuum tube. But what is of course critical is the aspect of stagnation behavior, for example, because depending on the concentration ratio, it is clear that a concentrating collector with a high stagnation ratio will not be able to withstand stagnation without being destroyed, because then temperatures are too high. And this is also not necessary if there are appropriate mechanisms, like, for example, a device that ensures that the collector is put out of the focus in case there is electricity shutdown or something like this. These are also aspects that have to be taken into account with regard to these concentrating collectors, because for flat plate collectors and also classical vacuum tube collectors, it's clear that they have to be designed in a way that they can withstand stagnation for a longer period. But yeah, as I said, for a high concentrating collector, of course, you cannot require this. Yeah, this is also one aspect. And then I think the presentation of the result is more or less the same. It's this power curve for the output per collector module. this is not a problem. What is a problem, or what can get a problem, is of course, if we look at solar key mark certification, then we have the solar key mark data sheets where the annual collector output is reported, and the temperatures for doing this, they are not designed for high temperature applications yet. Of course, there can be values reported for the collector output, but they will for sure not be in a range of 200 degrees or something like this. Yeah, that's the situation as it is at present.
Okay, thank you. Perfect. Sören, I think there is more questions on which parameters are shown on the final certificate. We have the question here whether the collector parameters, including, A1 and AB, the coefficients, and the full set of collector parameters is shown on this data sheets. And I think you might differ in your question, in your answer, between a certificate, because it's not so sure what this question refers to, and the SOLERGY label, because I think the information which is given in both, like information sheets is very different.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your question. So we really have to divide into the two parts. The first part is the valid collector certificate. And this collector certificate is based on the ISO standard and includes also the technical data sheet with the content which Harald just mentioned. So this is the basis for the collector certificate, for the product certificate based on the ISO standard. And in addition, on the second part, we have the SOLERGY label. And Marisol mentioned, or has shown in her presentation, the content of the SOLERGY label itself. And this content of this SOLERGY label will be also part of the SOLERGY registration. So we don't want to do double work, double information on different documents. We really have to divide it in two parts: the solar collector certificate, including the data sheet. On the second part is the SOLERGY label, including the annual collector yield by location, temperature, what Marisol described. This is two different parts with two different information, but all based on the valid product certificate. And yeah, I hope.
Okay, thank you. I think that's very important. And I really welcome everybody to go back to the websites, because the infographics explains very well what is seen on the label, which is, the outgoing one, because certificates are not really used in end consumer communication that much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, well, we have interested participants on PVT again. So I think it was clarified that PVT is covered by the standard, collector standard, and it will be part of the SOLERGY label. I think this was already answered. Now we have one question asking here whether the electricity production of the PVT will be taken into account when giving SOLERGY. Do you know that yet, Marisol? Because it's still under development, or is it already clear how this will be dealt with?
I know, because I created the infographic for this, so the electric part of the collector. How it is actually calculated, that's not my business, because I am not a technician. Perhaps Harald remembered that, or Sören, because I remembered that the methodology was updated to include this part of the PVT collectors.
And then electricity will be considered. Good. So maybe you can immediately ask whether you have done another infographic for air heaters, like air collectors, because this is a question which obviously comes from Canada. I think you added 25 degree. So is this for air heating? Or
actually,
what is this?
It's I think it's for water heating collectors. If it would apply also for the air collectors, I'm not quite sure, but the temperature level, the minimum temperature level that we consider in the new new edition of the SOLERGY label is 25th, mainly for swimming pools. I like to double check if it's also suitable for air collectors, which could actually be part of the scheme in that sense, but I have to check it.
Okay. we have a really audience which wants to know it very in detail. It's very good. So we have another question regarding whether the SOLERGY label looks into the lifespan of the collector. That means the whole CO2 footprint. But I assume it's only the annual performance, because this is what is also set in the SOLERGY mark.
Yes, exactly. It's the annual collector yield by location.
Yeah, so you take this, which is calculated in the SOLERGY mark, and you transfer this into something which is A plus A whatever. And everybody has to calculate itself times 20 years if you consider it 20 or 25 or whatever years. Okay, so it only shows the... Good. So Harald, regarding your concentration, what is low concentration and what is high concentration? This is what you said before in your answer on concentrating collectors, and now we have straight the question on to precise that.
I would, but this is just my personal opinion, I would say something around 2, and lower is low concentration, and above it's high concentration.
Okay, clear. So what is this? Does SRCC or SOLERGY mark stagnation test qualify a concentrating collector for the GSCN certification? Obviously, yeah. I mean, if you have a SRCC certificate or SOLERGY mark already, you can use GSCN.
Yeah, but again, I think this is an important point to avoid any misunderstanding. So there is no GSCN certification. So it's not in a way that we issue a certificate that a collector is certified according to GSCN. We work on the harmonization of the existing certification schemes. And so that means you could ask if an existing key mark certification qualifies for SRCC certification. And then the answer could be yes, but yeah, in the frame of the GSCN.
Okay, so we have also the question here. Oh, sorry, Marisol.
If it's a company, a manufacturer, or a company selling collectors, and they have these 2 certificates, they could also theoretically apply for the SOLERGY registration or the SOLERGY label, but there is no another certification additionally to the ones that they have, and they are valid and they are acknowledged by the GSCN.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you will also ask, Harald, whether there will be or another global certification label is planned within GSCN, but this is not the case, is it? Or do you have plans for that?
No, we don't have plans to issue a global certification label, but we have plans to extend the global solar certification approach to other product categories, for example, thermosiphon systems or things like that in the future.
Ah, okay, good. A more practical question, the QR code which is on the label, does it link to the certificate or to what?
Yeah, that's the plan. We have a database now at the website of the INSERCO, where you can have a look at all the label SOLERGY registrations of all manufacturers and all the collectors. And the label is specific. It's the label of one collector. And that QR code is also specific to the collector. So that would lead the people to the registration on the data bank that we will have online. Or at this moment, we have the SOLERGY labels which are on the market already, the labels which have been issued already, they don't have this QR code. This is the new edition. Mm-hmm. But you can find all the registrations on the website of the INSERCO. And in the future, when the next edition of the labels are on the market with a QR code, this will lead you to the specific registration of the label.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I think we went almost through the questions. I thank all these participants very much. I think this was a very interesting discussion with a lot of questions. There's one last one, which is a bit delicate. I will read it out to you. Are there any softwares recommended to test the virtually designed collectors to adhere to standards being followed for labeling? It would help in designing and manufacturing go hand in hand with expected testing results. Harald, challenging. Last question
yeah,
to you.
I think the question is what kind of softwares you would like to use. There are simple equations, for example, already decades back in Duffy-Beckman. You can assume different parameters for example, absorptance and emissivity and things like this, and transparency of the transmission index of the glass and things like this. And then you can calculate the expected, at that time they didn't call it power curve, they call it efficiency curve. And you can do this. This is one approach. Then also different research organizations build different models, also in the frame of PhD thesis for this. For example, University of Kassel did it. At IEA Intec, they have such a tool. We have a project finished on a very advanced approach where we use CFD calculations. And based on CFD calculations, we resimulate collector tests according to ISO 9806. And then we get the classical data, which are in this case, of course, not measurement data. It's calculated data for outlet temperature and things like that. And then we can use the commonly used evaluation tools for the data to determine power curve. So there are approaches available. And if we just talk again about testing, one aspect I looked up in the standard ISO 9806, and there they defined highly concentrating with a concentration factor larger than 3. So not 2, it's 3.
No, we have it very precise. Thank you. Great. Thank you to all the participants for the lively discussion, and to the presenters for their very thoughtful and good presentations. I know that all their contacts are mentioned at the end of the presentations, and they will be offered for download. So if you have further additional questions, or you want to get access to SOLERGY or whatever information, you can search for the email addresses and contact the speakers directly. So with this, I want to hand over to Arabella and thank ISIS for hosting this webinar today, and wish you all a great rest of the day.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Bärbel, and thank you very much to all of the panelists and, of course, the audience for all the lively questions. I think we saw a very, very good Q&A session today. And I want to answer one more question that we get a lot is, yes, this webinar is being recorded, and yes, you can get that recording, and you will find it on the IEA SHC Solar Academy homepage in a few days, as well as on the ISIS homepage. Same goes for all the presentations. They will be shared via those 2 homepages in a few days. And now, before we close for today, we've mentioned it a few times already. I want to mention it just one more time again, and that is the ISIS and IEA SHC International Conference on Solar Energy for Buildings and Industry, which has its very own theme just on testing. So the testing people will be happy to see that. Eurozone is going to take place from the 25th to the 29th of September 22, so this year, in Kassel, Germany. We have just launched the call for papers, and the deadline to submit abstracts is the 15th of April this year. So you've got a few more weeks to get your abstracts ready. You can find all relevant information on our homepage, that is eurozone2022.org. Yeah, and we are very much looking forward to meeting many of you there in Kassel. And now, for the very, very last posting for today, we thank you all for joining the webinar. We invite you to stay in touch. If you have any feedback you want to share with us, there's a little survey that's going to launch right after this webinar. And you can always write to us at public.relations@isis.org if you have ideas for other webinar topics you'd like to cover, or any feedback you want to provide. And you can stay in touch with ISIS as well on all the well-known social media channels. And with that, I say thank you. Thank you again to the IEA Solar Academy, to the speakers and to the audience, and we will see you next time. Bye.